3 years ago, a man named Marcus sat inside his car outside a grocery store, staring at his banking app longer than usual. He had already paid rent that morning. He transferred money into his 401k. He paid his credit card balance in full. Another automatic transfer moved into savings. He bought groceries with a strict list instead of impulse shopping. He skipped takeout again. On paper, he was doing almost everything financial experts recommend. Yet his checking account still looked painfully ordinary. His life did not feel rich. Nothing about it looked impressive online. His car was 7 years old. His apartment felt average. His vacations were rare. He packed lunch 4 days every week while co-workers casually ordered expensive delivery without checking prices. And sitting there in silence, Marcus had the same thought millions of Americans quietly have every month. What if I'm doing all of this for nothing? That question is one of the most dangerous moments in personal finance. Not because you are failing, because early wealth building feels emotionally invisible. Real wealth rarely looks exciting at first. It looks repetitive. It looks delayed. It looks like saying no when everyone around you says yes. It looks like automatic transfers, old vehicles, leftovers, and retirement contributions nobody compliments you for. Meanwhile, social media keeps showing people living bigger than you. Better apartments, better vacations, better restaurants, better clothes, better cars. The internet rarely shows the debt behind the lifestyle. It rarely shows the anxiety hiding underneath luxury. According to Federal Reserve and New York Fed data entering 2026, household debt in America remains near record levels, while revolving credit card balances continue exceeding $1.2 trillion. At the same time, bank rate surveys still show many Americans lack enough emergency savings to comfortably survive moderate unexpected expenses. In other words, many people who look financially successful are financially fragile. That creates psychological confusion for disciplined people. Because if you are building wealth correctly, there is often a strange period where your external life still looks ordinary, while your financial foundation quietly becomes stronger every month. I call this stage the financial fog. The fog is the emotional gap between smart behavior and visible results. And if you do not fully understand compounding, the fog can convince you nothing is happening. But something is happening. The math is happening underneath your daily life. This video is about 9 signs you are building real wealth even if your brain still keeps telling you otherwise. Some signs will feel immediately familiar. Others may permanently change how you interpret your financial life. And if you stay until the end, you may realize the behaviors making you feel boring today are actually the same behaviors separating future financially secure people from future financially exhausted people. Sign number 1. Money leaves your paycheck before you can spend it. This is one of the strongest wealth-building behaviors in modern America, and almost nobody talks about it because it feels painfully unexciting. If money automatically leaves your paycheck every month before you touch it, you are already participating in one of the most effective financial systems ever created. Automatic investing removes the biggest threat to long-term wealth accumulation. Human emotion. When people rely on motivation, they invest inconsistently. They wait for the perfect moment. They panic during market drops. They overspend during emotionally stressful months. They convince themselves they will invest later. Automation bypasses all of that. According to Fidelity Retirement Analysis entering late 2020, the average total 401k savings rate, including employer match, rose above 14%. Vanguard's How America Saves research also showed automatic enrollment dramatically increased participation consistency. That matters far more than most people realize. Because wealth is not built through giant dramatic moments. It is built through repeated small behaviors executed for decades. A 29-year-old contributing 10% of a $75,000 salary may look at a retirement balance of $50,000 and feel unimpressive. But the balance is not the story. The behavior is the story. Assuming historical long-term market returns near 8% annually, consistent investing across 30 years can quietly produce 7-figure outcomes from contributions that originally felt tiny. The early years feel emotionally discouraging because compounding behaves asymmetrically. Growth looks almost flat in the beginning. Then eventually it bends. Then eventually it accelerates. Most people emotionally quit before the curve bends upward. Marcus almost did. At 31, he had around $60,000 invested between retirement accounts. Every time he opened finance videos online, he saw people his age claiming six-figure portfolios and early retirement plans. He felt financially behind. What he could not emotionally process at the time was simple. He had already built the machine. The automatic contributions mattered more than the current balance itself. The balance was temporary. The habit was permanent. And permanent habits create long-term outcomes. Your future wealth is rarely built from emotional intensity. It is built from systems continuing quietly while your attention moves elsewhere. That is why financially successful people automate aggressively. They understand discipline becomes fragile when it depends entirely on daily emotion. Behavioral economists call this present bias. Humans naturally prioritize immediate rewards over future outcomes. Automation weakens that bias. It removes daily decision fatigue. It transforms good intentions into repeated behavior. Most people underestimate how much emotional energy money decisions consume. Every monthly decision creates psychological friction. Every transfer requires willpower. Every investment contribution competes against lifestyle temptation. Automation reduces that internal battle dramatically. And that reduction matters because wealth building is less about intelligence than consistency. The internet constantly glorifies giant financial breakthroughs. Viral businesses, overnight investing wins, massive crypto profits, sudden millionaire stories. But most financially secure people quietly built wealth through boring systems repeated over very long periods. That reality feels less exciting online. It also happens to be statistically true. Sign number 2, you pay your credit card balance in full every month. This feels normal to financially irresponsible people. It is not normal statistically. And the long-term difference between people who do this consistently and people who do not becomes enormous over time. According to consumer credit data entering 2026, average credit card APRs remain historically high, with many cards exceeding 20% interest. Here is the dangerous psychological trap. Credit card debt rarely feels catastrophic in the beginning. It feels manageable. That illusion is exactly why it becomes destructive. Minimum payments create the appearance of progress while interest quietly compounds underneath. A person carrying several $1,000s at 22% interest may spend years thinking they are only slightly behind financially, while tens of thousands disappear into interest across decades. But when you pay your balance in full every month, something critically important happens. The compounding machine stops working against you. Instead of paying banks enormous interest, that money remains inside your own financial ecosystem. That difference changes everything long-term. A person consistently avoiding revolving debt has more flexibility, more monthly margin, less financial anxiety, stronger credit positioning, and dramatically greater investing potential. The reason this behavior feels invisible is because paying balances in full creates almost no emotional excitement. Nobody posts screenshots celebrating avoided interest. Nobody receives admiration for staying financially stable. Social media rewards visible consumption, not invisible discipline. But avoiding financial destruction is one of the core foundations of real wealth. Wealth is not built only through growth. Wealth is also built by reducing financial leakage. And interest leakage is one of the biggest leaks in modern consumer life. There is another psychological advantage people underestimate. People paying balances in full maintain stronger emotional clarity. Debt creates background stress even when people pretend otherwise. Behavioral finance research consistently shows financial stress reduces decision quality, increases emotional spending, and creates avoidance behavior. Scarcity psychology narrows cognitive bandwidth. When debt pressure disappears, mental clarity returns. That matters enormously because wealth building requires long-term decision consistency. You cannot think strategically while constantly surviving emergencies. Many people believe debt stress becomes normal eventually. It does not. Humans merely adapt psychologically while carrying chronic tension underneath. That tension appears in relationships, sleep quality, impulsive purchases, career decisions, and emotional regulation. Financial freedom starts much earlier than luxury. It starts the moment your money stops actively working against you. Sign number 3, you know where your money goes every month. You do not need complicated spreadsheets. You do not need perfect budgeting categories. You do not need color-coded dashboards. But if you generally know where your money goes every month, you are already ahead of a huge percentage of the population. More importantly, you are controlling the single variable most people ignore completely. Awareness. Research across behavioral economics consistently shows awareness changes spending behavior. People tracking expenses usually reduce unconscious purchases automatically because observation creates friction, and friction interrupts impulsive behavior. That matters enormously inside a culture designed to eliminate spending friction completely. One-click purchasing, buy now, pay later services, auto renewals, subscription stacking, food delivery apps, algorithmic advertising, social media-driven impulse spending. The modern economy works best when you stop paying attention. That is why awareness itself becomes financially powerful. According to spending surveys entering 2025 and 2026, many Americans dramatically underestimate recurring expenses. Small leaks become invisible because they happen automatically. $15 here, $28 there, another streaming subscription, another convenience fee, another emotionally driven online purchase. None individually feel dangerous. Collectively, they reshape financial futures. Marcus discovered this accidentally after reviewing spending 20 minutes every Sunday night. Nothing obsessive, nothing extreme. But after several months, he realized he was spending more than $400 monthly on convenience alone. Coffee runs, delivery fees, random snacks, impulse purchases, tiny emotionally driven decisions. None individually felt serious. Together, they exceeded $5,000 annually. That realization changed his relationship with money permanently. Not because he became cheap, because he became conscious. And consciousness is where financial control begins. People often think budgeting creates anxiety. Usually the opposite is true. Financial confusion creates anxiety. Clarity reduces it. Most financially stressed people are not actually tracking reality. They are emotionally estimating reality. Those are very different experiences. Once you begin observing spending honestly, patterns become visible. You notice emotional triggers. You notice boredom spending. You notice social comparison purchases. You notice convenience addiction. And once patterns have become visible, behavior becomes changeable. Neuroscience research around dopamine anticipation also explains why spending feels emotionally addictive. Humans often receive stronger dopamine anticipation before purchases than after receiving items themselves. The emotional excitement exists mostly in expectation. That is why impulse buying rarely creates lasting satisfaction. Hedonic adaptation quickly resets emotional baseline levels. The excitement fades. The spending remains. Financially aware people eventually understand something crucial. Many purchases are not actually about utility. They are emotional regulation disguised as consumption. Some people shop after stressful workdays. Some spend when feeling lonely. Others spend because scrolling social media quietly activates comparison anxiety. Modern advertising understands human insecurity extremely well. Entire industries profit from emotional vulnerability disguised as self-improvement. That is why awareness becomes such a powerful financial advantage. Once you can identify the emotional reason behind spending, you regain control over the behavior itself. Marcus eventually noticed most of his unnecessary spending happened during emotionally exhausting weeks. The purchases were rarely about the items. They were about relief. Tiny moments of stimulation inside stressful routines. Once he recognized that pattern, he stopped trying to fix spending through guilt and started fixing the stress creating the spending instead. That changed everything. Because sustainable financial behavior rarely comes from shame. It comes from understanding. The goal is not perfection. The goal is awareness strong enough to prevent unconscious self-sabotage. Financially successful people are not necessarily more disciplined genetically. Often they simply built systems increasing awareness before decisions happen. And over long enough timelines, awareness compounds exactly like money does. Sign number 4, you drive a car. You could replace but choose not to. This one hurts emotionally because modern culture treats vehicles like identity statements. Cars represent status, success, attractiveness, and achievement. Automakers understand this perfectly. That is why advertising rarely focuses on transportation itself. It focuses on identity transformation. Freedom, prestige, power, recognition. But long-term wealth data consistently points towards something less glamorous. Many financially successful households drive practical vehicles significantly below what they technically could afford. Meanwhile, average new car payments in America remain extremely high entering 2026, with many buyers carrying expensive loans across 6- and 7-year terms. The dangerous part is not only the payment itself, it is the opportunity cost hiding underneath the payment. Imagine two people earning similar incomes. One drives a reliable paid-off sedan, the other upgrades into a luxury SUV, costing $600 additional monthly after insurance, fuel, maintenance, and financing. The luxury vehicle feels emotionally normal quickly because humans adapt fast. But invested consistently across decades, that monthly difference can quietly compound into hundreds of thousands of dollars. That is the invisible part nobody emotionally sees while standing inside a parking lot. The parking lot shows the car. It does not show the loss compounding. Marcus struggled with this constantly during his early 30s. Every few months, he watched luxury car reviews online and convinced himself he deserved something nicer. Then he calculated the future value difference if he invested the monthly gap instead. Suddenly, the car stopped feeling like transportation. It started feeling like a trade between temporary validation and long-term freedom. That realization changed him permanently. Here is something psychologically important. Choosing not to upgrade when you technically can is one of the earliest signs of financial maturity, because it means you are beginning to prioritize future optionality over present image. And optionality is what real wealth eventually creates. Options: time freedom, career flexibility, reduced panic, lower stress, the ability to walk away from situations damaging your mental health. The internet often trains people to confuse visible luxury with financial success. Many luxury lifestyles are actually financed lifestyles. The appearance of wealth and the reality of wealth are frequently opposites. Some people spend enormous energy looking successful before becoming stable. Others quietly become stable first. Only one path compounds positively long-term. Sign number 5. You have an emergency fund even if it feels small. Emergency funds are deeply misunderstood because they are emotionally boring. Investment accounts feel productive. Emergency savings feel stagnant. Emergency funds function like structural reinforcement underneath everything else. According to Federal Reserve and Bankrate survey data entering 2026, many Americans remain financially vulnerable to moderate unexpected expenses. That matters because emergencies are not rare statistically. They are inevitable eventually. Cars break, medical bills appear, air conditioners fail, layoffs happen, family emergencies happen. Life creates volatility constantly. Emergency funds exist to stop temporary problems from becoming long-term financial damage. That distinction matters enormously. Without savings, a $700 repair becomes high-interest debt. Then interest reduces future savings capacity. Then another emergency appears. This cycle traps millions of households financially, not through one catastrophic event, through repeated smaller disruptions. Marcus experienced this personally at 27. For building savings, a transmission repair forced him onto a credit card. It took nearly 2 years emotionally and financially to recover because the repair created interest. The interest reduced cash flow. Reduced cash flow delayed investing. Delayed investing increased anxiety, and anxiety triggered emotional spending. The repair ultimately cost far more than the repair itself. Financially secure people understand something others miss. The real danger of emergencies is destabilization. When Marcus eventually built a 6-month emergency fund, something surprising happened. He did not suddenly feel rich. He felt calm. That calmness changed his behavior more than expected, because financial peace improves decision-making quality. People make stronger long-term choices when operating outside survival mode. Stability creates strategic thinking. Scarcity creates reactive thinking. That psychological distinction changes entire financial futures. Emergency funds also protect investing consistency. You cannot maintain long-term compounding if every unexpected expense forces liquidation or debt. The emergency fund's purpose is not aggressive growth. Its purpose is protection. It protects the engine underneath your future wealth. You rarely appreciate a wall until a flood arrives. Then suddenly the wall becomes everything. Sign number 6, you have said no to something you could technically afford. This may be the clearest behavioral sign of long-term wealth potential. Almost nobody talks honestly about what wealth building emotionally feels like. Sometimes it feels empowering. Sometimes it feels deeply unfair. You watch friends travel constantly, upgrade apartments, lease luxury cars, buy expensive furniture, attend costly dinners casually. You technically could join them, but internally you know saying yes would compromise something important. Your investing consistency, your savings rate, your emergency fund, your margin. So you say no, not because you are incapable, because you understand trade-offs. Modern marketing aggressively encourages people to treat every desire like justified self-care. You deserve it. Life is short. Treat yourself. Those messages work because emotionally they feel true. But financially, repeated lifestyle inflation quietly destroys compounding. According to long-term net worth data, savings behavior consistently matters more than people emotionally expect. High earners frequently accumulate surprisingly little wealth because lifestyle costs rise alongside income automatically. That shocks people because culture constantly trains us to associate income with wealth. They are not the same thing. Priya learned this painfully after declining an expensive international vacation with friends. The trip would have cost nearly $4,000 after flights, hotels, restaurants, and activities. She technically could afford it, but she had recently started aggressively building investments and emergency savings, so she declined. For 2 weeks, she felt miserable emotionally. Social media photos from the trip felt like personal attacks. Then she calculated what that money could become, invested across 20 years. The future value shocked her. Suddenly, she realized something emotionally important. Delayed gratification is not punishment. It is strategic resource allocation. That mindset shift changes everything. Financial maturity often begins when people stop evaluating purchases only emotionally and start evaluating them through opportunity cost. Every dollar spent has an invisible future version attached to it. Most people never calculate that invisible version. Wealth builders eventually do automatically. That is why financially disciplined people often appear strangely calm around status pressure. They are mentally comparing present excitement against future freedom simultaneously. Sign number 7, your net worth is moving in the right direction. Most people never calculate net worth honestly. That is a mistake because net worth cuts through almost every illusion in personal finance. Income can mislead you. Lifestyle can mislead you. Social media absolutely misleads you. Net worth reveals accumulation. It answers one important question. Are you becoming financially stronger over time? According to Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finance's data, median net worth varies dramatically across age groups, and median statistics matter much more than averages. Because averages become heavily distorted by extreme wealth at the top. Social media constantly exposes people to outliers, making abnormal financial situations appear normal. They are not normal statistically. Most financially successful lives are much quieter than algorithms suggest. Marcus learned this after finally calculating his net worth honestly. Initially, the number depressed him. Student loans, modest savings, average investments, small balances. The number felt embarrassingly low. But 6 months later, it improved. Then improved again. Then again. Growth remained slow initially, but direction mattered more than speed. Eventually, Marcus stopped obsessing over where he should be and became obsessed with trajectory instead. That psychological shift changed everything. Wealth building is directional long before it becomes visually impressive. That sentence matters deeply. Directional progress still counts. Financially disciplined people constantly underestimate how powerful steady upward momentum becomes over decades. Compounding does not care whether progress feels emotionally dramatic. It only cares whether progress continues. One of the internet's biggest distortions is convincing ordinary people their financial lives are failures because they are not extraordinary. But most real wealth is built gradually by financially average people consistently making slightly better decisions over long periods. Quiet progress still compounds aggressively. Sign number 8. Your savings rate or income has improved even slightly. Most people think wealth appears through giant breakthroughs, viral businesses, massive raises, sudden investing wins, lottery ticket outcomes. Sometimes those things happen. Most wealth building does not look like that. Most wealth building looks like gradual optimization repeated consistently. A slightly better salary negotiation, a new skill, a certification, a 1% increase in retirement contributions, a reduction in recurring expenses. Tiny improvements repeated across decades become enormous eventually. The Japanese concept of Kaizen describes continuous incremental improvement. Financially, that principle becomes incredibly powerful because compounding magnifies small behavioral changes across long timelines. Imagine someone earning $80,000 annually. Increasing retirement contributions from 6% to 8% may barely change daily lifestyle emotionally. But across 25 years, assuming long-term historical market returns, the additional compounded wealth becomes extremely significant. That is the part people fail to emotionally grasp. Compounding disproportionately rewards consistency. The first years barely feel meaningful. Then eventually small behavioral differences separate into radically different outcomes. One household reaches retirement exhausted. Another reaches retirement with flexibility and peace. The behaviors creating that gap originally felt tiny. Marcus eventually created a personal rule. Every time his income increased, part of the increase automatically went toward future wealth before lifestyle inflation consumed everything. Half improved present life, half strengthened future freedom. That one system quietly transformed his trajectory over time. Not dramatically, steadily, which is exactly how most real wealth is built. Modern culture constantly glorifies optimization hacks and dramatic financial transformations. But long-term success usually comes from ordinary systems surviving longer than emotional impulses. Sign number 9. Unexpected expenses no longer create panic. This may be the most underrated sign on the entire list because real wealth begins psychologically before it becomes externally visible. Ask yourself one honest question. When unexpected expenses appear, what emotion arrives first? Panic or annoyance? That answer matters enormously. Panic means margin does not exist. Annoyance means stability exists underneath your life. And stability is one of the earliest forms of wealth. People underestimate how exhausting financial instability actually becomes psychologically. Chronic money stress changes human behavior profoundly. Research across psychology and behavioral economics consistently shows scarcity reduces long-term thinking ability, narrows cognitive bandwidth, increases impulsive behavior, and weakens emotional regulation. Financial stability therefore creates advantages extending far beyond money itself. Better decisions, better relationships, better sleep, better mental health, greater career flexibility. Stronger long-term planning. A person constantly surviving emergencies cannot think strategically. They are too busy reacting emotionally. Marcus noticed this transition gradually. Years earlier, surprise bills would emotionally ruin entire months. Later, unexpected expenses became inconvenient but manageable. That emotional difference represented enormous financial progress, even though externally his lifestyle still looked ordinary. No luxury watches, no flashy vacations, no expensive status symbols, just increasing stability. And stability compounds positively because stable people maintain investing consistency. They avoid destructive debt cycles. They recover faster emotionally from setbacks. They continue contributing while others constantly restart financially from zero. Continuity is one of the most underrated wealth-building advantages in existence. The biggest lie the internet tells about wealth. The internet constantly trains people to associate wealth with visible consumption. But financially, visible consumption often signals the exact opposite. Real wealth frequently looks extremely average. Many financially secure people drive normal cars, wear ordinary clothes, and live surprisingly unremarkable daily lives. Because once people truly understand compounding, they begin seeing money differently. The fog starts lifting. And once the fog lifts, something psychologically important happens. You stop needing constant external validation because you can finally see the curve yourself. The 2026 financial reality. Most people are ignoring. Modern life is becoming increasingly expensive. Housing costs remain elevated in many markets. Healthcare costs pressure families constantly. Retirement responsibility increasingly falls onto individuals. At the same time, social media-driven comparison culture keeps intensifying. That combination creates an extremely dangerous environment for average earners because many people are trying to appear financially successful before becoming financially stable. Eventually, the math catches them. This is why the 9 signs in this video matter so much. Each sign reduces fragility. Each sign strengthens long-term compounding. Each sign increases resilience. Each sign quietly widens the gap between income and lifestyle. That gap becomes investments. Investments become assets. Assets eventually become freedom. That is how the process actually works. Not quickly, not dramatically, but relentlessly. Many people emotionally quit because the beginning feels too slow. They mistake invisible progress for failure. They compare themselves against curated internet lifestyles. They confuse spending with success. They forget something critically important. The people performing wealth online are not necessarily building it underneath. The moment the fog finally lifts. Marcus finally understood this at 36, not after becoming extraordinarily wealthy, not after some dramatic breakthrough. He understood it while reviewing 10 years of financial behavior quietly accumulated underneath ordinary life. His investments steadily grew. His debt steadily fell. His savings strengthened. His panic decreased. His net worth kept rising. Slowly at first, then faster, then noticeably. He realized something profound. The feeling of not getting anywhere had been emotionally real, but mathematically false. That distinction changed his life permanently. And it may change yours too, because the financial fog convinces people to quit right before compounding becomes visible. That is the tragedy. The curve usually bends later than people emotionally expect. But once it bends, the acceleration shocks them. That is why consistency matters more than excitement. Motivation fades constantly. Systems survive. Automation survives. Discipline survives. Financial literacy survives, and over long enough periods, ordinary disciplined behavior produces outcomes once looking impossible. So if you are contributing automatically, paying balances in full, tracking spending, driving below your means, building emergency savings, saying no strategically, improving net worth, increasing savings rates, and handling emergencies without panic, you are probably already building real wealth even if your brain still refuses to believe it. The fog says you are behind. The math says you are compounding. Trust the math. And most importantly, do not let comparison culture convince you to abandon behaviors future you will desperately thank you for later. Because the people staying on the curve long enough eventually discover something almost nobody believes during the early years. Boring financial behavior eventually becomes extraordinary financial freedom. That is how real wealth is actually built. Quietly, slowly, then suddenly. Thanks for watching.